Are you looking for the perfect blend of city convenience and just an overall awesome place to live? And have you been dreaming of living in an amazing location in between Silicon Valley and San Francisco? Incredible outdoor options, killer neighborhoods, and just a super awesome downtown? Then you're gonna wanna stick around because in this video, we're gonna do a deep dive into what I think San Mateo is one of the best places to live in the whole Bay Area. So let's dive in. There are a ton of reasons why people choose to live in San Mateo. And what's interesting is San Mateo is actually roughly tied, depending on how you look at the data, for largest city in San Mateo County with about 100,000 people right up there with Daly City. Here we got some killer weather. We are a fantastic location, kind of in the heart of the peninsula. So we're kind of about halfway between San Francisco and Silicon Valley. So if you work in tech or biotech or healthcare or finance, San Mateo is gonna kind of give you most optionality from a career perspective. But from a lifestyle perspective, San Mateo is super awesome. We have 27 different neighborhoods, and we're gonna kind of give you a little bit of an overview on that in a little bit. But we have a very vibrant downtown, which is where we are right now, downtown San Mateo. And then we have a few other shopping areas like Hillsdale Mall, 25th Avenue, which we'll talk about too. But what I think is really special is San Mateo's downtown is pretty big. So it's a large grid-like area, whereas like say nearby Burlingame Avenue, which is also fantastic. Burlingame Ave is just several blocks long. San Mateo has a bunch of different streets that are kind of crisscrossing each other. And we have over 171 different restaurants, shops, and coffee shops just in a several block radius. So what's kind of cool about downtown over other areas is you really get a huge diversity in your restaurants, right? You have amazing Asian food. You have amazing Mexican and Latin food. You have amazing food kind of pretty much from all over the world, amazing sushi. There's over like a dozen sushi places just in downtown San Mateo, like a bunch of, I think there's about 9 ramen shops. So you really kind of can check the box. If you are a foodie, San Mateo is gonna really have a lot of different options, and we could do a whole video just on some of my favorite restaurants. Like there's Antoine's Cookies, which is really good. We have Draeger's, which is a great place to very high-end grocery store. Even has an escalator going up inside it. Now, you don't want to buy your toilet paper there, but if you want to go get a birthday cake or buy their killer salmon burgers or their deli department, it's just amazing. So when we kind of think about the downtown and its proximity to the rest of the town, you're going to be driving anywhere from like walking distance actually, or no more than 5 or 10 minutes to get to downtown San Mateo. So it's not like a stressful thing. It's not like there's massive amounts of parking, but for me, like living super close by to downtown San Mateo, whenever I'm driving over here, you know, maybe I'm adding another 3-4 minutes to find a parking spot, but it's totally not a big deal. All right, so let me give you a sense on the lifestyle in San Mateo. This is such a great place to live, and I think part of it is we have killer weather here. So we're kind of not too warm like some of the more southern areas, Mountain View, Palo Alto, and we're not too chilly like more Daly City, San Bruno, South San Francisco. The location here is stellar, so we're basically halfway between San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and I think that's really nice because from a career perspective, it gives you a lot of optionalities. So whether you work biotech in South San Francisco or in big tech in San Francisco or the AI space or down in Silicon Valley, or you work in healthcare at UCSF or Stanford or CPMC or PAMF or Sutter Health, you just have so many different options. Or if you work in finance on Sand Hill Road or in San Francisco, San Mateo is gonna really check that box because we kind of have these major freeways. We have 101, we have 92, and then we also have kind of 280 up on the hill. So kind of wherever you live in the city, it's not gonna be hard for you to commute up or down the whole peninsula. And that's why people who I've represented who have bought in San Mateo, it's very rare that they actually sell their houses. So location is great. And then from a lifestyle perspective, because our weather's so awesome, there's just so many different ways that you can enjoy the outdoors, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But first, right now, it's worth mentioning we're in downtown San Mateo. This is such a great place to be. We are on South B Street, and you can kind of see the mural. And I'm saying in the middle of the street, like this kind of started during COVID with all the outdoor dining and just these public sitting areas here. There's so many great places to eat in downtown San Mateo. There's over 171 different restaurants, shops, and coffee shops, not to mention a ton more just small businesses. What I like about downtown San Mateo is it's very close to wherever you live in San Mateo. So it's kind of bordered by Burlingame, just on the northern side of San Mateo. So we live in Burlingame, and just to drive from Burlingame where we live to downtown San Mateo, it's just like 3-4 minutes. And parking here, it's not a stressful experience. Sure, if it's Saturday night at 6 p.m., it's not gonna be like you're in San Francisco on Union Street or Chestnut, or you're in North Beach trying to find parking. You know, like I lived in the city for 8 years during my 20s, and that was like super stressful just when you're looking for parking. Obviously, I loved it, but there's a time and place for everything in your life. And so in San Mateo, you know, there's the parking, but we have so many good places to eat. You're gonna find those really good options here in downtown San Mateo that you might not see in some other towns. Like for example, Burlingame has a great bakery scene. Burlingame Burlingame has some really good Italian places, but overall, downtown San Mateo has the best package compared to any other town for every type of food you could possibly want. Because there's that density of businesses in downtown San Mateo, there's kind of something for everyone. What's cool about San Mateo is if you're into coffee, we got a Blue Bottle here, we got a Phil's just half a block away, there's a Pete's, there's a Starbucks. Let's just go on in and grab something though while we're here. Can I get a cappuccino, please?
Almond alternative.
Okay, almond's good. All right, well, it is not inexpensive here. That was a $7 coffee. When you look around here, I mean, when you pay $7 for a coffee, you are getting an hour or two of time. I mean, almost everyone sitting here is having a meeting or they're on a MacBook. And so ultimately you're just paying for this real estate of the space to be able to enjoy it for that period of time. So from that perspective, it's not unreasonable. The other thing that's nice in San Mateo, compared to any other town, we actually have 2 movie theaters, not just one, but 2. So one here, the Century Theater in downtown, and then we have another one at Hillsdale Shopping Center, which is an amazing outdoor shopping center and also a huge indoor component too. And that is Sinopolis. That just opened in the last few years. It's kind of a little bit more of a luxury vibe, a little pricier, but they will bring food to your seat, and it's just a cool experience. The other thing I really like about Hillsdale Shopping Center is they have a Pinstripes bowling alley, an Apple store. There's this really cool kind of outdoor area. They did a major expansion several years ago and refreshment of several $100 million with the food court. And then inside there's a Nordstrom, Macy's, there's a Cheesecake Factory, there's a Barnes & Noble and Trader Joe's just across the street. So we kind of have all of that in San Mateo. If you want to get that not in San Mateo, then you'd be looking at San Francisco or down in Palo Alto. So San Mateo is kind of the hub if you want any of these, not necessarily just big box stores, although we do have a Costco, we do have a Home Depot in San Mateo, just kind of east of 101 over at Bridgepoint Shopping Center. But we also have like serious shopping if you're into that as well. All right, so we're just about to hop over to the next spot that I'm excited to show you guys. But I think this is kind of cool. You know, we're just walking back to the car and we have a parking garage here, which isn't the sexiest thing, but it is nice to have that in downtown. And then we're just kind of in this cool little like kind of main street where the movie theater's over here. B Street's a block away. We have the back of Curry Up Now here. We have Mortar and Pestle. And I just love this vibe where, you know, you're not seeing this really in other towns, this kind of like urban feel, although it's still in a suburban area. So we're not in a major city like San Francisco, but still 100,000 people in San Mateo, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening here. And so even if you go down by the train station, there's a Rise Pizzeria, which is immediately next to the train, but it's a beautiful spot. Like they've really restored it beautifully. If you want to learn a little bit more about downtown San Mateo, I actually have a whole video just on downtown. It's a really fun walking tour. It's about 40 minutes, so check that out. We'll move on to our next spot. Okay, so you might be wondering who lives in San Mateo, and obviously it's hard to kind of generalize, but I would say what's cool about San Mateo is it kind of attracts people from everywhere, from all different types of backgrounds, all different ages, at least what I've observed in San Mateo, even compared to some other towns. And I think that's something that I'm really proud of and I think is really cool. But if you're to say, okay, like what's kind of the general range of people who are buying, we're gonna see a bigger range than you will in some other towns. So for example, in San Mateo, I would say most people who are buying are gonna be kind of late 20s, where I've done a couple transactions recently for people buying their first condos in their late 20s. And then you're getting families who are expecting or with 1, 2, or 3 kids, sometimes 4, in their like early 30s to mid 40s. We see a lot of that profile buying in San Mateo. I've represented a few past clients whose parents were buying condos in San Mateo to kind of be near their grandkids. They pop in, enjoy the condo, and then pop back out and just keep the condo kind of available at all times. And then you see people who are downsizing. So see people in bigger homes in Hillsborough or in San Mateo who are just kind of wanting to move into something that's one level and flat. And so I feel like San Mateo really checks the box because we have such a huge range of prices in San Mateo compared to other towns. So a single family home in San Mateo is going to range in price from about $1.1, $1.2 million all the way on up to about $4 to $5 million. And if you get into some more expensive neighborhoods like San Mateo Park, you can even spend $8 or $9 million on a very large newer construction home on a big lot. So we kind of see a huge range within that in San Mateo. And when we kind of talk about real estate in San Mateo at some of the more entry price points, and by entry, I just mean, and you hear people use the words like starter homes, but to be fair and to be respectful at all price points, these are very expensive homes. So for someone who's looking at spending $1.something million on their first house, these are massive numbers. Like many people have saved their entire lives to have the privilege of being able to afford a home around here. So obviously we have a housing crisis in California, in the Bay Area, in particular the peninsula. Out of the 9 counties in the Bay Area, it is the most expensive county to buy a home here from an average and median price perspective. So that's not something that I'm really proud of, but it just kind of is what it is because it's a really sought after area for a bunch of different reasons. Personally, I think this is a fantastic area, but if you choose to buy here, just know that it's not going to be inexpensive. But the positive for the city of San Mateo is you're going to get a lot better value in San Mateo than you will in some of the other towns. Why is that? Like in nearby Burlingame, the price points are just generally going to be a little bit higher from an average and median home price perspective, and compared to also San Carlos and Belmont, you're going to get a little bit better value in San Mateo. But again, that's just going to kind of depend on the neighborhood. All right, oh my God, we're driving and I just saw Kitchen Town. So let's stop in there and go to Bonjour Bakehouse. This is one of the hidden gems of San Mateo. This is one of my favorite places to go on the whole peninsula. We're gonna meet Francois because he's here, he's the owner, and he's super cool. You should absolutely check this place out. Their scones are totally to die for. Happy New Year. Tell me about Bonjour.
Okay,
here.
so Bonjour Bakehouse, we are a small bakery. We don't do too many things, but whatever we do, but we try to do it right. So come and try it out. Yeah, pretty good.
Well, tell us like what are your signature things?
So signature stuff. I think we are well known for our scones.
Oh yeah, best scones on the peninsula. I think that's all we're gonna do. We do scones. We ship cookies all over the US, and then we do croissants. So every Saturday morning I go to the farmers market in San Mateo at the community college of San Mateo. I grab all our fruits over there, and whatever I get for my kids, I get for the bakeries. Can you like show me a couple things?
Yeah, I'll show you. Okay. I'll show you everything.
All right, what are you going to show us here?
Well, this is actually a cool thing about San Mateo. There is this thing called, it's Kitchen Town. It's a community kitchen where if you come a little bit further in, it's a massive 5,000 square feet facility where it's a kitchen production with a bunch of different makers up here. You've got makers, you've got bread makers, you've got us, you've got a powder guy that does shakes for, it's a food incubator, basically. It's a super interesting business. We are using the coffee space that was a coffee shop before and a restaurant before. We're using it for outside service, but if you come here, super peaceful.
Yeah, and everything is basically all gone because we're here at 12:30 here. But look at these scones. What do we got here?
We've got a cinnamon scone right here, which is the exact same thing as the cinnamon roll, but without the icing and with a little bit. Do you want some?
Yeah, I'll eat that.
You know, I'll eat that too. We have persimmon scones. We have some beautiful almond croissant. It's not as big as the one you sent me on the picture. Again,
that's a big one.
Right now, because everything is happening at everything that we have at the farmers market, we're in the middle of winter, so it's a bit of a boring season. So right now we have pear and cardamom still. We had one of our clients who brought us some Lola berries from Pescadero, so we have Lola berry scones.
I love that.
We are starting a peanut butter and jelly scone on Monday. We have persimmons as well. We're doing an orange and a cranberry scone.
Oh my God.
So that's for the fruit, and then we have a bunch of savory ones as well. So bacon, pancetta, smoked salmon, mushroom still from the farmers market in San Mateo.
What's like the most unique thing that people might not?
If you're a big, the scones are phenomenal.
I know. Let's just try one.
Wait. So And when I started doing this little window up here, I'm like, okay, people up here, they love scones, they love cookies, and so they love their baked goods, and so I'm gonna do a scone that I love. And so basically,
I'm gonna try that.
The interesting, they are not your typical scone. That's all I'm gonna say, and I don't want to say anymore. I will let you discover it.
Oh my God, it's so good. And I promised in January that wasn't any sugar, and I broke my rule. But that's okay.
Good.
Isn't that amazing? If you're ever looking for a good place to buy cookies and you want to ship them anywhere in the country, like you said, this is the place to do it. So. Yeah,
Raziel has been super supportive of all the small businesses that are up here, and it's super important for us. And if you come here, it's a great neighborhood. Great neighborhood. Salut, guys. Ciao.
All right, that was so much fun. I mean, sometimes we do this. It's not like we have a plan in the beginning. Oh, we're gonna stop here, we're gonna do this. And it just kind of unfolds. And it's really cool to show you guys Bonjour because they're one of my favorite spots on the whole peninsula. Really wanted to show you guys one of my favorite hidden gems in all of San Mateo. A lot of people who are less familiar with San Mateo might not even know about. This is Coyote Point. We are right here on the Bay Trail. And the Bay Trail actually goes from basically Burlingame, which is just over here, all the way down south to Redwood Shores, and actually continues all the way through the South Bay, but this is the most continuous spot of the trail. It's over 10 miles. And if you just imagine over here, I'm looking directly at the city of San Francisco and downtown, and you can see planes kind of taking off. There's a marina just over here, and just over here is Curiosity. It's a really cool interactive kids museums. We had our son's birthday party there when he was really little. From an outdoors perspective in San Mateo, there are so many different options that we could just chat for a while about. For a town of 27 neighborhoods, there's over 13 neighborhoods neighborhood parks. There's over 9 large community parks, and that includes Central Park in downtown San Mateo, which is fantastic. It has a Japanese tea garden. They have San Mateo on Ice there every December where they do a ice skating rink in the outfield. It's just a really cool spot. We have 2 community pools in San Mateo. We have 2 community gardens. There's a big shoreline park system as well in San Mateo. So there's also Seal Point Park, which is just right off of the eastern side of 3rd Avenue. There's a huge dog park that's very popular and we love going there. So you can kind of ride your bike or go for a walk just around the perimeter of it. In fact, if you like climbing stairs, that's the best place that you can go on the peninsula. In San Francisco, there's some really famous steps that you can go up to, but in San Mateo County, this is the spot if you want to get your climb on. So I think it's also impressive that San Mateo has over 200 acres of open space. We have our own estuary with a lagoon where you can take motorized craft out there. So in Foster City, you can't go out on the water with your boat and go wakeboarding or water skiing, but you can do that in San Mateo. We actually have a nice collection of homes right out by kind of Lake Street, east of 101, right on the kind of the lagoon there, where there's some waterfront homes and some townhomes as well. And there's even a sandy beach, which is man-made, but is awesome. Right here in San Mateo, most people aren't even aware of that. So I love hiking, and one of my favorite places to go for a hike is right up in Laurelwood, kind of in that little park there. You can go a few miles of trails just right in there. There's kind of homes around the perimeter of the canyon, but once you kind of get in there, you do have cell service, but it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. My other favorite place to go for a walk is Sawyer Camp Trail. That's kind of the westernmost part of the city, and that has beautiful views overlooking the reservoir. It's a ton of open space there. In fact, many people aren't aware that 72% of San Mateo County is protected land, and with San Mateo being kind of the largest city geographically in the whole county, there's a lot of open space just kind of west of 280 there, and I kind of like that wherever you are in San Mateo, you're gonna be very close to some nature. One cool thing about Coyote Point is there's Poplar Creek Golf Course, which is an 18-hole public golf course with an excellent restaurant called Par 3. Another thing I like is if you were to come here on Thanksgiving Day, there's a local running store called A Runner's Mind, and they're very community oriented. They host a run here, basically a turkey trot, depending on your age. It's not like extremely competitive, but it's super fun. We did that on Thanksgiving Day. My wife and our son participated. There must have been over 1,000 people, kind of made up of people who live in Burlingame, San Mateo, Hillsborough, kind of all around the county is my guess, who came here just kind of run around, have a good time. And so that's kind of the nice thing about these parks. They're actually used. People come back and they really enjoy it. What's really fun about San Mateo, as I've kind of already mentioned, with it being a town of 100,000 people and 27 different neighborhoods, there's kind of something for everyone. And right now we are in the Bay Meadows neighborhood, kind of in phase 2. So for context, we are just west of 101, we are north of Hillsdale Boulevard, and we are east of El Camino. And this is a really cool pocket. There actually used to be a racetrack here growing up for horses. Obviously that was less exciting as things moved on. And now there's Bay Meadows phase 1, which is anchored by a Whole Foods, there's a Mendocino Farms, there's a Village Hummus, there's a Starbucks. That's pretty cool. And then we're kind of right here in phase 2. This is all built in the last like 6-7 years. And it's kind of really cool. Like, it's a true live work environment. So we have headquarters here for SurveyMonkey. We have headquarters here for Roblox. We have over here, again, another Blue Bottle, Artisan Rome Burgers, Humphrey Slocum. We kind of have everything here is typically about 3 to 4 stories high. So you have these bigger buildings here, which are the offices. And then over here, we've got townhomes. We have apartments. You can rent a 2-bedroom apartment in here. They're not inexpensive, but you could easily spend $4,000 or $5,000 a month for a rental there. And you could buy a townhome in here. A townhome price is going to kind of be starting around 1.3 to 1.6 in phase 1. And then in phase 2 here, a 2-bedroom townhome is going to kind of be about $1.5 million to $1.7 million. There is a small collection of single family homes in here, which kind of go up to the high 2s, right around $3 million. But generally speaking, the sweet spot for something that's newer is going to be like high 1s, low 2s-ish. There is a little bit of an additional property tax if you buy here because it's called a Mellow Roost District. In order to build all the infrastructure here, there's a 30-year tax. Not a big deal if this is an area that you like. I've represented a few folks who have bought in here and they love it because it is super walkable. Everything's right here. You got your grocery store. You have Caltrain, which is just 2 minutes over here. There's actually Nueva, which is a private school in Hillsborough and also here. And then you have some really large parks in here too, like Bay Meadows Park. There's another park with a basketball court. We've been to a couple birthday parties there. You have a One Medical over here, and then Fieldwork Brewery, which is a really cool spot just to go after work and just relax and have a beverage outside. We are here at Hillsdale Shopping Center, and I want to show you this because it is super cool. So the mall over here has been here since 1955, but obviously it's undergone some renovations. But where we are now here, up until about 10 years ago, this was a site for Sears, the old retailer that I think is no longer around. But anyways, they redeveloped this and in 2019 opened this all up. It's a $155 million renovation. There's a new food court here. We have an Apple store. We've got Pinstripes, which is a really awesome kind of luxury bowling alley. We just went to a bar mitzvah party recently here and it was a ton of fun. And then there's Flores, which is a really good Mexican spot. There's Sinopolis, which is the luxury movie theater. And then over here we have, of course, a Lululemon. We have an American Eagle. It's just a really fun vibe. We're shooting this basically a little after lunchtime on a weekday, so there's not a whole lot of people here, but if you were to come on a Friday night or anytime on Saturday, if the weather's even halfway decent, this area where the turf is gonna be packed with a lot of people, tons of kids. It's actually a destination. Of course, there's Stanford Shopping Center. You can go shopping in San Francisco. And then of course up in Corte Madera and Marin, there's some great shopping too, but you can kind of get it all done here. The only thing that's missing is an REI. You gotta go to San Carlos or REI. Many people aren't aware some of the really well-known companies that we have headquartered here in San Mateo. So obviously we went by Roblox already, SurveyMonkey. There's also Zoox, which is a $1 billion startup that's now owned by Amazon for self-driving. They're doing some really cool stuff. GoPro's headquartered here, Sony Interactive, Snowflake, which is a huge cloud computing company, Guidewire, which specializes in software for the insurance industry, Coupa, which is a really large B2B software company. We have Rakuten, which is a Japanese e-commerce company, and their American headquarters are right here in San Mateo. We have Franklin Templeton, worldwide headquarters, which are also headquartered right here at Bay Meadows. And if we start to think about some of the more expensive neighborhoods in San Mateo, you're gonna be looking at Baywood, Aragon. Right now I'm in Baywood. And what's cool about Baywood is like this greater neighborhood is actually made up of 5 neighborhoods. So Baywood, Aragon, Baywood Knolls, Homestead Husing, and Foothill Terrace is kind of all 5 that are kind of right next to each other. So that's south of Crystal Springs Road, west of El Camino, but it's super close to downtown San Mateo and Central Park, which is walking distance. That's a huge selling point about Baywood itself. And then we are just kind of east and west of Alameda. Just west of Alameda is gonna be Foothill Terrace at the south, and then a little bit more north is gonna be Baywood Knolls. But this is one of the most sought after areas in San Mateo, and that's kind of why it's one of the most expensive. So if you're looking at a home in here, you're gonna be looking at anywhere from like mid to high $2 million range up to low $4 million range. So certainly not inexpensive. So in here, you're gonna get a little bit better price per square foot than you will in some of the more expensive neighborhoods in Burlingame pretty much across the board. Why is that? It's not like this is not as good or less sought after or anything like that. It's just Burlingame's a little bit closer to San Francisco, so therefore you get a little bit of a premium there. And of course, Burlingame is a little bit of a unique spot. But San Mateo is certainly fantastic. I've had many clients who are looking at the higher price points in Burlingame. Equally consider Baywood and San Mateo, and also San Mateo Park. But I just love this pocket because it's really flat, it's walkable, it's trick-or-treatable. In fact, the best place to trick-or-treat in San Mateo, in my opinion, is right in the heart of the Aragon neighborhood, which kind of trickles up here too. And even though we're in Burlingame, for the last couple of years, we've met up with our son's friends in Aragon, and it's been super awesome. In fact, the family whose home we've gone over to, they told me that they bought like 1,800 pieces of candy for Halloween just to pass out, which is absolutely insane. So people are coming from not just the neighborhood, but from other areas just to try to trick or treat right around here. But for home prices, you can't really get a 2-bedroom in these little neighborhoods like you can in Burlingame, but a 3-bedroom is gonna kind of start in the mid-2s, and the 4 bedrooms, that's gonna kind of usually have a 3 in front of it from that perspective. Now, let's talk about San Mateo Park. That is arguably my favorite neighborhood on the whole peninsula. That is just kind of west of El Camino. It is south of Burlingame Park, and it's east of parts of Hillsboro. It's kind of north of Crystal Springs Road. It is a beautiful neighborhood. You can find homes in there. They're gonna be starting in the high 2s, but really the sweet spot in the park is gonna be kind of $3 million to $5 million, but you can spend up to $7, $8, even $9 million in San Mateo Park. It's just a really expensive spot. Why is it so expensive? Because you're gonna get larger lots than most other towns aside from Hillsboro. So you're gonna see in there some lot sizes that are easily like 8 to 12,000 square feet. We're only seeing about 2 homes on average sell in San Mateo Park per month, which is not a lot, just kind of depending on the year. Some years it's as low as like 1.25 to 1.5 per month, but you're gonna get a lot of different architecture. You get these really cool iconic islands. If you're driving in the neighborhood, you kind of have to weave your car right around them. They were built over 100 years ago when people would kind of, how'd they get around? Was like horse and buggy. So that way they didn't really have 4-way intersections and there are no collisions. So it's a really cool thing. There's actually over 60 islands in the whole San Mateo Park neighborhood. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit different, high tree density, wide streets, San Mateo Park might be at the top of your list. And if you're thinking about buying a townhome, San Mateo is gonna have have a ton of options also compared to nearby towns. So when I have people who are looking for townhomes, San Mateo is like at the top of the list for options that I like to show people. You have a few different developments. Obviously you have Bay Meadows. We have Harbor Town, which is just east of 101, north of the 92 freeway, and that is right on the water. Kind of has a real craftsman feel. And you have some that have attached garages, some with detached garages, but it's a really nice vibe in there. There's also Edgewater Isle, which is east of 101, south of 92. Kind of feels like it's in Foster City, but it's actually in San Mateo. And you can get a townhome in there that's gonna be in the low $1 million range, so really good value. But generally speaking, a townhome in San Mateo is gonna kind of start in the low ones and get up to about the mid ones, with the most expensive being in the Bay Meadows neighborhood. Check this out. This is the San Mateo Public Library. It is beautiful. So this is a really special library. This was actually built in 2006, which we'll talk about in a sec, but it's worth noting we have a really rich history here for the library system in San Mateo. The idea started in 1883, and then a few years later, the very first library was built in San Mateo, but that burned down within a year. So in 1905, Andrew Carnegie did a $10,000 grant for the rebuilding of a new library, which started in 1905, and that finished in 1907, which is interesting because in 1906, it was the San Francisco earthquake. So the earthquake itself didn't really have much of an impact here on the peninsula, so the library just kind of continued. And then the current one, where we are now, again, was built in 2006. It's a really rich collection of local genealogy, local history. So this is actually a 3-story structure. There's a children's section, there's a local history section, actually a pretty decent genealogy section as well. It's a really big hub for the whole community here. In fact, the library system overall had over 300,000 hours of computer use last year. So the library, just like some of the other nearby libraries, the library here, it's not just about checking out books. Obviously that's a huge part of it, but there's resume writing workshops, there's story times for kids. It's just a really vibrant place. If you're thinking about making a move to San Mateo County or within San Mateo County or specifically the city of San Mateo, I'd love to be your peninsula real estate resource of choice. So feel free to reach out. All my contact info is in the description below. If you'd like to learn more about San Mateo specifically, check out this video with a deep dive all about downtown San Mateo. You can check out this video, which is all about Bay Meadows and the whole development there. Or you can check out this video, which is a map tour, kind of like this, but in map version, all about San Mateo. I'll see you guys in the next video.